Good evening. Hope you can hear me. Okay. So, welcome to the last session of the research methodology course. And up to now, we have discussed a lot of concept, especially focusing on the quantitative research and some concept regarding qualitative research as well. And today we will be walking through the rest of the research steps and see how we finalize with the data collection and data entry. Now, as for the last topic yesterday, I discussed the basic steps in the development of a research tool. What we are doing in development of research tool, what are the steps, which kind of questions and the scales we can use with some examples. However, lot of people are thinking they can compile some questions together, and when they gather the data collection is done. But the problem arises when you are trying to publish your data or present it at a scientific conference. එතකොට මේ රිසර්ච් එකක් නිකම්ම කරාට වැඩක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හැමතිස්සම අපි රිසර්ච් එක පබ්ලිෂ් කරන්න ජර්නල් එකකට දාන්න නැත්නම් කන්ෆරන්ස් එකක ප්‍රසන්ට් කරන්න. ඒක නැෂනල් කන්ෆරන්ස් එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, ඉන්ටර්නැෂනල් කන්ෆරන්ස් එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. In either way, we need to show our research, how we did it, and then publish the results. Then only there may be an output. Now, this is where number of new researchers get stuck. When there have been questions regarding the research tools. ප්‍රශ්න වෙන්නේ ගොඩක් වෙලාවට කොහෙන්ද මේ tool එක හැදුවේ, කවුද හැදුවේ? researcher develop tool එකක් කිව්වන් පස්සේ කොහොමද මේක validate කරේ කියන ප්‍රශ්න ටික අහනවා. If you are not to get stuck, any research tool that we are using should be reliable and valid. Regarding the validity and the reliability, I told you the basic idea. So if I remind you again, validity means whether the tool is able to actually measure what we are intending to do, intending to measure. අපි මනින්න හදන දේ ඇත්තටම මනිනවද කියලා තමයි validity කියලා කියන්නේ. And reliability means whether this tool can be used by different people in the same setup or same person in different setup and get similar result. ඕනම තැනක ඕනම විදිහකට පාවිච්චි කරාම සමාන විදිහේ ප්‍රතිඵල එනවද කියන එක තමයි reliability කියලා කියන්නේ. Reliable ද කියන එක. How we are going to determine the validity and the reliability? So this is a long process, okay? I'm not expecting you to master these skills. This takes time, this takes effort, but only doing we can establish these things. When it's come to the reliability, there are two ways, two concepts coming in the reliability, two components. One is called as the intra-rater reliability, other one is called as the inter-rater reliability. Intra-rater reliability means we are giving the same test or our tool to the same set of individuals with fixed time intervals, which means we are getting the same sample, same test people, and we give them the same test within different time periods. So we give the questionnaire today, and after 5 days, we give it to them again. In another 5 days, we give it to the same people again. Now, here, the important thing is we need to consider the time interval. You know, certain things can be changed over time interval. For an example, if it is a short time period, person emotional status, mental status, these things can be changed. But if we think about their sociological backgrounds, they are less likely to change in a short time of period. Therefore, we have to think about and decide about time intervals based on our tool. And also, the time interval should not be too short. එක පාරක් ටෙස්ට් එක දීලා දෙවෙනි පාර දෙනකොට දවසෙන් වගේ දෙනව දුන්නොත් එහෙම අර උත්තර ටික මතක තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. In that case, we have to carefully consider about the time duration or time gap between the test administration. And how we are going to determine the reliability? So this is done by statistically. There is a test called as Pearson correlation test. By doing this one, using the test result in different occasions, we can consider the amount of reliability. I'm not explaining the test or how the results are being interpreted, but you can have this idea. So if you are ever developing a questionnaire by yourself, you can use these methods. The other one is inter-rater reliability. So this one is done using multiple assessors. We are using the same test, and then we get multiple assessors. ඒතර ගොඩක් වෙලාවට මේක පාවිච්චි වෙන්නේ ඉන්ටර්වියුව ඇඩ්මිනිස්ටර්ඩ් ටූල්ස් ටෙස්ට් කරන්න. කියන්නේ තමන් විසින් පුරවනව නෙමෙයි, පරීක්ෂණය කරන කෙනා විසින්ම ප්‍රශ්න අහලා පුරව ගන්න ටූල් තියෙනවා. අන්න ඒ ටූල් ඇසස් කරන්න තමයි අපි මේක පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. Each person, each assessor goes to each individual and get the data collected. එතකොට එක එක්කෙනා එක assessor කෙනෙක් නැත්නම් investigator කෙනෙක් එක participant කෙනෙක් ළඟට ගිහිල්ලා එයා ඒ දත්ත ටික පුරවගෙන යනවා. තව එක්කෙනෙක් තව participant කෙනෙක් ළඟට ගිහිල්ලා ඒ දත්ත ටික පුරවගෙන යනවා. After that, which is being done is we get all the responses by each assessor, so the investigators, and then see how they are agreeing with the responses. එතකොට මේ දීපු responses වලට කොච්චර මේ assessors ලා agree වෙනවද, මේගොල්ලෝ කොච්චර එකඟයිද කියන එක බලනවා. So this agreement is also assessed using a statistics test called as kappa value. kappa කියලා test එකක් තියෙනවා, මේ test එක කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන්. And based on the values, if we get a higher value, so the values go from 0 to 1. If we get a higher value, it is a perfect reliability. If it is a lower one, we tell it is a poor reliability. So these are the methods to measure the reliability of a tool. When it comes to the validity, there are different methods we are using. Face validity, content validity, citation validity, construct validity. මෙන්න මේ විදිහට එක එක validity වර්ග තියෙනවා. මේ හැමදේම කරන්න අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නැහැ. Now, when you are looking into these ones, you will feel like, oh my god, there are a lot of things to be done. I can't never do this one. No. The thing is, you should have at least some level of validity and reliability in your tool. අඩුම ගානේ මොනාම හරි දෙයක් establish කරලා තියනොත් කිසිම දෙයක් නොකර ඉන්නවට වඩා. Some validities can be easily conducted. For an example, face validity, it is very easy to establish. And content validity, somewhat easy to establish. So these things can be done easily. At least some kind of validation need to be done if your research to be considered acceptable. එතකොට මුකුත්ම නොකර දත්ත ටිකක් එකතු කරලා එළියට දාන එක නෙමෙයි රිසර්ච් එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒ දාන දත්ත කොච්චර සයන්ටිෆික්ද, කොච්චර අපිට generalize කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එක සාමාන්‍ය population එකට පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියන එක. That's why we are doing research. අපි research එකක් කරන්නේ අපි ගන්න කරන research එකේ ප්‍රතිඵලයක් මොනවා හරි ප්‍රයෝජනකට ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න. Therefore just don't do collect some numbers and present them. Try to do it in a scientific way. So in the validity, there are different methods for different types of validations. I will simply describe these things. මම බොහොම සරලව මේ ටික කියන්න යන්න බොහොම simple විදිහට කියන්නේ. I'm not explaining the methods or in-depth discussions regarding the validity. I just want you to have some idea regarding this validation process. මොකද්ද මේ validate කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ කියලා. තේරුම් ගන්න ඔයගලන්ට අදහසක් දෙන්න විතරයි මම මෙතනදී උත්සාහ කරන්නේ. Face validity is the first and the simplest form of validity. Just like the name shows, we are looking into the face of the questionnaire. So the appearance, format, layout, මේක කොච්චර හොඳට පේනවද ලස්සනට පේනවද කියලා තමයි බලන්නේ. We are looking the items in the questionnaire presented in a way that give us the information what we are looking for. අපි අර ගන්න ලෑස්ති වෙලා ඉන තොරතුරු ටික ගන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට මේ ටික ප්‍රසන්ට් වෙලා තියෙනවද? ප්‍රශ්න ටික පිළිවෙලකට හැඩගැස්සিলা තියෙනවද? ලේඅවුට් එක කොහොමද? අමාරු මං ඊයේ කතා කරනකොටත් කිව්වා අමාරු ප්‍රශ්න පස්සට, ලේසි ප්‍රශ්න ඉස්සරහට, demographic data ඉස්සරහට මෙන්න මේ විදිහට තියෙනවද? This is what we are looking in the face validity. ඒතර face validity කියලා අපි බලන්නේ මෙන්න මේ දේවල් ටික. And also we check for the relevance, formatting, readability, clarity, appropriateness of the question. එතර අපි හදපු questions කොච්චර relevant අපි topic එකට, formatting හරියට තියෙනවද, වචන හරියට තියෙනවද, පැහැදිලිද? These are the things that we are looking here. Face validity can be done by non-experts as well. Non-experts means we do not need to find expert people in the field. For an example, if you are doing a marketing survey, you don't need to find a marketing advisor to validate the tool, validate the marketing tool. Because any person, non-expert, but somebody who are having the ideas regarding the questionnaires, they can do a face validation. This is just think this one like a makeup, making the questionnaire easy to understand and presentable. Here, the next validity is kind of in-depth one. ඊට පස්සේ අපි මේ කතා කරන වලට මෙන්න මේකට නම් අපිට එක්ස්පර්ට්ලා ඕන වෙනවා. How well a research instrument include all aspect of the construct that aims to investigate. මේ content validity එකේදී අපි බලන්නේ අපි හොයන්න යන aspect එක. ඒකට අදාළ හැම කොටසක්ම මේකේ අඩංගු වෙනවද? Are all important domains covered? Let's think we are trying to investigate the intelligence level of the school children. බුද්ධිමත් මට්ටම බුද්ධිය හොයන්න තමයි යන්නේ. When it comes to the intelligence, there are different aspects in the intelligence. Reading intelligence, imagination, writing. මෙන්න මේ විදිහට එක එක කොටස් තියෙනවා. බුද්ධිය කියන එක 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 විදිහට ඊට පස්සේ common sense වගේ දේවල්. So our tool should be having all these components. This is what we are looking for, the content validity. Content එක අඩංගු දේ ගැලපෙන විදිහට තියෙනවද අපි cover කරන topic එකට අදාළ දේවල් මේකට අඩංගුද කියන එක තමයි මෙතනදී බලන්නේ. Therefore this need to be done by an expert panel. මෙන්න මෙතනදී තමයි අපිට expert panel එකක් ඕන වෙන්නේ. Now, who are these expert panel? කවුද මේ expert කියලා අදහස් කරන්නේ? This is identified by the experts in the field we are researching. අපි හොයන field එකට අදාළව බලන field එකට අදාළව තමයි අපි මේ expertලා හොයාගන්නේ. For an example, if you remember in an early date I discussed regarding a nutrition related research topic. Mama nutrition ගැන හොයන topic එකක් ගැන කිව්වා. So the topic was related to the iron deficiency anemia in school children. පොඩි අයගේ යකඩ ඌනතාවය හින්දා ඇතිවන රක්තහීනතාවය ගැන කතා කරන research එකක් ගැන මම කිව්වා. If I am looking somebody for the content validation for that research tool I'm using in that research, I need to get somebody expert in things like nutrition, anemia, iron deficiency, those kind of things. So what I can do is I can get a nutritionist, පෝෂණ වේදියෙක් ගන්න පුළුවන්, and also hematologist, රුධිරය සම්බන්ධ විශේෂඥ වෛද්‍යවරයෙක්ගෙන් අහන්න පුළුවන්. And also I can have a talk with let's suppose some expert, academic expert who are teaching things on nutrition and anemia kind of things, maybe a professor or someone like that. I can gather 2-3 people who are covering different areas in the field and ask them to evaluate my tool. Now there is a separate method. I'm not going to explain it. It is like giving a marking. So after that, the investigator can calculate content validity ratio and finally content validity index. මේ අන්තිමටම හදනවා content validity index කියලා එකක්. එක එක්කෙනාගෙන් එන response ටික බලලා expert panel එකේ මෙන්න මේ index එක high index එකක් තියෙනවා නම් හොඳ validity එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. The next one is citation validity. Citation validity is about the comparison. It is something like this. Think you are making a new machine to measure weight. බර බලන්න අලුත් උපකරණයක් හැදුවා කියලා හිතමුකෝ. Now, how you are making sure the accuracy of this new weighing scale? මේ තරාදියේ හරියට බර කිරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා අපි දැනගන්නේ කොහොමද? So we are doing this by comparing with another known scale. මෙන්න මේක තමයි අපි citation validity එකෙන් කරන්නේ. අපි මනින්න යන දේ හරියට මැනෙනවද කියලා බලනවා අපි දැනට දන්න establish කරපු tool එකකින්. දැන් මේ තරාදි කතාවේදී ගත්තොත් දැනට හරියට බර මනින්න calibrate කරපු acceptable තරාදියක් කරන්. ඒ තරාදියෙන් මනින කිලෝවයි මං අලුතෙන් හදපු තරාදියෙන් මනින කිලෝවයි දෙකම කිලෝවක් පෙන්නනවද කියලා බලනවා. අර තරාදියෙන් අර ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් තරාදියෙන් මනින එකේ කිලෝව මගේ තරාදියත් කිලෝව පෙන්නනවා නම් අන්න මගේ තරාදිය valid. So this is something like that. I'm using my tool and compare it with another tool in the same field. මේ එකම field එක එකම දේ මනින tool එකක් පාවිච්චි කරනවා දැනට පිළිගත්තු tool එකක් මේ දෙකෙන් වෙන ප්‍රතිඵල සමානයිද කියලා බලන්න. Right? So by doing measurement at the same time, we can compare whether the new tool, the tool developed by us, whether it is giving the same result. So that is what we are doing in the citation validity. The next one is construct validity. Construct validity is we are checking whether the research tool is actually measuring the concept that it is meant to measure. අපි දැන් knowledge එක මනින උපකරණය මේ tool එකක් fraction එකක් හැදුවා නම් මෙන්න මෙතනදී තමයි අපි බලන්නේ ඇත්තටම knowledge එකමද මැනෙන්නේ කියලා. So there are different way to do this one. I'm not explaining a lot regarding this. So there are convergent validity and divergent validity. I'm not going into deep instruction at the moment. However, the basic idea is we are trying to see whether our research tool is measuring the actual concept that it is meant to measure. මනින තියෙන දේම මනිනවද කියන එක බලන එක. Now, there's another concept when we are talking about reliability and validity, which is called as the internal consistency. So this internal consistency is something like looking into the relationship, bonds. Now let's think about the questionnaire, which is measuring knowledge regarding, let's say, preventing home accidents. Home accident වළක්වන එක ගැන දැනුම හොයන්න යන්නේ මෙන්න මේ ගැන හදපු tool එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා හිතන්න. So what happens is, in our tool there are different questions, different types of questions. දැන් එක එක ප්‍රශ්න අහලා තියෙනවා. එක ප්‍රශ්නයකින් ගෙදර ඇති වෙන fall accident ගැන. Other one may be regarding poisoning accident. Other question may be related to burn accident. In this way, different components are addressed in the questionnaire. එතකොට දැන් මේ tool එකේ එක එක home accident ගැන වෙන විදිහ ගැන දැනුම හොයලා තියෙනවා. In internal consistency, what we are looking is, we are checking whether these individual questions are working together to make the whole final picture. මේ එක එක ගත්තාන් පස්සේ මේ ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා මේ අතර අන්තර් සම්බන්ධයක්ද? Are they interrelated? Are they correlated with each other to give the final big picture? මේවා එකිනෙකට බැඳිලාද තියෙන මේ අවසාන ප්‍රතිඵලය අපිට දෙන්න කියන. ඒ කියන්නේ මේවා එකිනෙකට ගැලපෙනවද? එකිනෙකට බැඳිලා තියෙනවද? හරි උත්තරයක් හම්බ වෙනවද කියන එක. This is also done using some statistical method after doing a pre-test. මම ඊයේ කිව්වා pre-test ගැන අපි ටෙස්ට් කරන්න මේවා පාවිච්චි කරනවා කියලා. After doing the අපි tool එකක් හදලා tool එක අපේ research එකට පාවිච්චි කරන කලින් 15 දිනකට දීලා අපි මේක බලනවා. So by doing this pre-test or pilot test study, we can see whether the parts in our components in our study tool, are they working, correlating with each other to give a meaning, right? If the thing is, if these items are poorly correlated, if they are not matching with each other, if they are not having interrelations, then the overall tool, it is very less likely to be reliable or valid. එතකොට මේ එකිනෙක ගැලපෙන්නේ නැත්නම් මේක හරියට එහෙම් මෙහෙන් ගෙනලා කෑලි එකතු කරලා හදන මොනවා හරි නිර්මාණයක් වගේ. එතකොට මේ කෑලි ටික ගැලපෙන්නේ නැත්නම් නිර්මාණයේ අවසාන ප්‍රතිඵලය හරියට එන්නේ නැහැ. Think about the vehicle. Someone is repairing a vehicle, putting parts from here and there. If they are not working in a harmony with each other, the vehicle won't work. තර මේ මැෂින් එකක් එහෙම නැත්නම් vehicle එකක් වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම මෙහෙන් ගැලපෙන්නේ නැති කෑලි දාලා හැදුවොත්. When it comes to the questionnaires, by doing internal consistency checking, that's what we are trying to achieve. මෙන්න මේ internal consistency කියන එක මනින එකෙන් අපි කරන්නේ මේවා එකිනෙක වැඩ කරනවද කියන එක. Okay. So these are the all things I'm going to discuss with you regarding validity and reliability. If I summarize again, validity and reliability are very important when it's come to data collection tools. Because if our tool is not reliable or not validated, all the results we are getting, they are also not valuable. හරියට පාවිච්චි කරන්න බැරි වැරදි tool එකක් පාවිච්චි කරොත් අපිට ලැබෙන ප්‍රතිඵලත් ඔක්කොම වැරදි. That's why we need to establish some kind of validity and reliability on our tool. පුළුවන් තරම් දුරට මේ validation and reliability කියන දේ අපි සිද්ධ කරන්න අපි tool එකක් හැදුවම පස්සේ. Remember, last day I talked about already validated tool. මීට කලින් කට්ටිය පාවිච්චි කරපු validate කරපු tool පාවිච්චි කරන එක ගැන මම කිව්වා. If we are going to use already validated tool, we have to make sure that those tools are validated to our context as well, right? Australia validate කරපු tool එක ලංකාවට ගැලපෙන්නේ නැහැ. In that case, we have to do a validation process in Sri Lanka as well. So now we have built up our questionnaire. We have gone through the validation process. Now it is time to data collection. Now remember, if your research includes human participants, animal participants, you need to go through the ethical clearance process before you do the data collection. I told earlier regarding the ethical considerations. Now we have to think about ethical considerations before going through the data collection process. Once you got the ethical clearance, now we can go into the data collection steps. What are the different approaches we can use for data collection? The traditional approach is using a paper. එතකොට අපේ questionnaire එක හරි tool එක හරි paper එකක print කරනවා. These papers can be administered by the interviewer or the investigator, or we can use this as a self-administered tool. එතකොට මේක අපිට කොලයක් විදිහට print කරලා බෙදලා දීලා පුරවලා දෙන්න කියලා කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. එහෙමත් නැත්නම් අපි ගිහිල්ලා කොලේ අපේ අතේ තියාගෙන ප්‍රශ්න අහගමන් පුරවන්නත් පුළුවන්. So it is based on your design. The other one is online forms. Using Google Forms, Microsoft Forms, and then sharing them using email, we can do online data collection. This is kind of easy, at the same as it can be hard, because the thing is, online forms very easy to share. QR code එකක් හරි link එකක් හරි share කරාම මේක හැමතැනම බෙදන්න පුළුවන්. But the thing is, you have to make sure the data is collected from the correct people who are fulfilling the inclusion criteria. එතකොට අපේ research එකට අපි ගැලපෙන අයගෙන් තමයි අපි මේ data ටික ගන්න කියන එක ensure කරගන්න ඕනේ. And then other thing is, sometimes it will take long time to receive the data. දැන් කොලයක් දීලා පුරවගත්ත මේකේ වෙලාව පුරවගත්තම ඉවරයි. හැබැයි link එකක් එවුවම පස්සේ මේ link එකට access වෙලා මේක fill කරයිද කියන එක එහෙම ප්‍රශ්නකුත් තියෙනවා. In both forms there are advantages and disadvantages that you have to carefully decide what is the most appropriate data collection approach in your research. The other thing is, if you are doing Google Forms, you have to make sure that one participant is giving only one response. Then Google Form මෙම හරියට set කරේ නැත්නම් එක්කෙනෙකුට එකපාරකට වඩා response එවන්න පුළුවන්. Then what will happen is, your sample size like 200, but you get response like 300, right? And the other thing is sending by the post. Now this is again old school method. However, still being used since lot of studies. මේ post කරන එකේ තියෙන්නේ අපි questionnaire එක හදලා ඔක්කොම විස්තර ටික දාලා මේක තැපැල් කරලා යවනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට fill කරලා තැපැල් කරලා එවන්න කියලා මුද්‍රාපු ලියුම් කාර්යකුත් දාලා තියෙනවා. Now the thing is, the expensive. This can be expensive because you have to use not only posting, but also you have to send reposting stamps as well. The other thing is, this method is sometimes used to send a small gift to encourage in participating in the research. මේ සමහරලාට research වලට participate වෙනවට පොඩි gift එකක් ඒ වගේ දේවල් හම්බ වෙනවා. It may be a small gift voucher, cash compensation, different things are there. Sometimes people use postal services to do these things. But always remember, giving these compensations sometimes can interfere with your research methodology. මේ පොඩි පොඩි තෑගි දෙන එක සමහරට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද එතකොට කට්ටිය හරියට response දෙන්නේ නැහැ, කොහොම හරි වැඩේ කරනවා තෑගි ගන්න බලාගෙන. Those things also need to be considered. Now, in any method, there are certain things that you have to remember. The first one is always remember to go with consent, obtaining consent. If it is a paper form, first get the consent form signed. If it is online forms, the settings must be set in a way that the participants are unable to proceed without giving consent. එතකොට මේ consent ගන්නෙ නැතුව data collection පටන් ගන්න එපා. Other thing is always provide information. Always provide information. I will show you the information sheet, example information sheet. So these information sheets contains what is being done in the study, what are the risks, any compensations, what are the benefits, and it informs regarding the participants' right to withdraw. So these things can be included in the information sheet. Now, before the data collection, you have to make sure your participants know about your research, they know their rights, and also they give their consent. After that, based on your research design, you can either use interview administered method or self-administered method. Okay, now I'm going to show you with some extra extra stuff. So this is regarding the information sheet I mentioned. Right. It's taking a bit of time to open this document. Okay, now I will show you. Okay. Right. So this is the consent form. This is an example consent form, including the information sheet. The first part, a brief introduction regarding the investigator is being given, and then the information sheet start. So it tells the basic things regarding the purpose of the research, and procedure, what is being done, what we are doing with the participants, and then how the participants are being selected and their right for voluntary participation, and the things like the duration, whether there are any risk, discomfort included that will be faced by the participants, and what are the benefits? Is there any compensations, reimbursements? And regarding the confidentiality, so what the investigators are doing with the data, which kind of information are being gathered, and also the participants' right to refuse and withdraw, and whom to be contacted for any inquiries to be done if they want to, if they want any more information. So these are some basic components. Therefore, in any kind of research, information sheet need to be prepared, especially where the human beings are getting involved. These information sheets are very essential, and it need to be submitted to the ethical clearance board when you are getting your permission. මෙන්න මේක අනිවාර්යෙන් අහනවා සබ්මිට් කරන්න යනකොට ethical boards වලට කෝ information sheet එක කියලා. After that, we can prepare the consent form. So this is an example consent form. Here certain questions are being asked from the participants, whether they read the information, whether they got to ask any questions, whether they got answers, enough information, and whether they are agreeing to take part in the study. So after that, we can get the name, signature of the participants, and this is stored separately because we are getting the things like name and signature of the participants. Therefore, we are not entering this data or anything. We are just looking this consent form in a locker to protect the privacy and confidentiality of the personal data. So this is an example based on your studies, based on the study designs. Your information sheets and consent forms can be different. Okay. Now, right. Let me share the screen again. Okay. Now, before moving into the next part, I want you to tell a bit regarding another problem we face during the data collection. This is about the language barriers. Now, the tools you are developing might be in one language, but you may need to translate these tools into other languages as well based on your sample and the population. How we are going to translate in a proper way these tools? අපි මේ පාවිච්චි කරනවා හරියට කොහොමද translate කරන්නේ? So this process is called as back-to-back translation. Okay, what we are doing is we are getting the original document and then we give it to a somebody. Somebody means someone with ideas regarding the field we are working on, to translate the tool. එතකොට මෙයා මොකද්ද කරන්නේ අපි ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් හදලා තිබ්බොත් සිංහල translate කරනවා. And then what we are doing is we are getting that translated document and give it to another person to put it back into the original language. ඊට පස්සේ අර සිංහලට translate කරපු එක ආයේ වෙන කෙනෙක්ට දෙනවා ඉංග්‍රීසියට translate කරන්න කියලා. Now we got two English versions, the original one and the translated one, and we got a Sinhala translation as well. Now what we are doing is we are taking all three versions along with the translators and then discuss about any disparities. එතකොට අර මුලින්ම ගත්ත original එකයි අන්තිමට ආපු translated English එකයි අරගෙන ඒ වගේ මොනවාද වෙනස්කම් තියෙන ඇයි මෙහෙම වෙනස්කම් උනේ සිංහල එකටයි මේ වචන පාවිච්චි කරේ කියලා discussion එකක් ගන්නවා. So this is the back to back translation process for a study tool. Just keep that in your minds as well. Okay, so back into the data collection. Now we have to make sure the things like getting consent and providing information sheets, and also we have to make sure we are using a number for all the questionnaires. දැන් මම කිව්වා අපි පාවිච්චි කරනකොට tools පාවිච්චි කරනකොට personal data පාවිච්චි කරන්න නම් ලියලිය මේ මෙයාගේ එහෙම ගන්න. Therefore the best method is to use a number. If we can put the same number in the information in the consent form and the same number into the completed questionnaire, then we can keep a record regarding the number of questionnaires we got and who owned that questionnaire. මොකද මේ consent form එක වෙන් කරලා වෙනමම file කරලා lock කරනවා. ඒක computerize එකක් නම් වෙනමම password දාලා protect කරන්න ඕනේ. And then we only get a collection of data without any personal identification details. එතකොට මේ serial number දැම්මන් පස්සේ අපිට කිසිම හඳුනා ගන්න වෙන් කරලා හඳුනා ගන්න පුළුවන් தත්ත්වයක් ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Then comes the data entering part. Now we got the data sheet onto our hand. How we are going to do the data entry? When we are doing the data entering, the main thing is use a proper code for the questionnaire. Now, let me show you a tool. Now, okay, give me a second. Right, so this is a standard tool, one of the standard tools that I used in one of the research. Okay, right. Hope you can see the screen here. Right. Now this is a research tool. This research tool is prepared using previously validated standard tools. Now, as you can see, yesterday I told about making the sections, not to just put the questions, but keep the sections separately so the participant can easily answer the question. So here you can see the sections are like section A and then section B and section C. Each section, the instructions are being given, right? Now, I mentioned about coding. So coding means when we are entering data, we cannot write the responses. For an example, see the first question here. For the gender, there are two answers like male or female. Rather than writing male and female, remember here we are doing quantitative studies. අපි මෙතන කරන්නේ ප්‍රමාණාත්මක research data enter කරන්න යන්නේ. To something quantify, we need numbers. එතකොට මේ හැම දෙයක්ම number එකකට හරව ගන්න ඕනේ. How we are doing it? We have to replace these words with numbers. So what I can do is, I can do some codes, some coding instead of the terms here. For an example, for male, I can use number 1. For female, I can use number 2. And regarding these designations, positions, nurse managers, I can use number 1. And staff nurses, I can use number 2. Education level, same. I can put like 1. For the BSc level 2, master level 3. Work experience, same thing. I can use numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. I can use the numbers. In this way, instead of using the letters, the wordings, we can use numbers to give values in the quantitative research. And here, as you can see, this is a Likert scale. See, there's a Likert scale like very often, fairly often, sometime, almost, never, never. So these are also can be put like numbers. Very often, number 5, never, number 1. So we, if someone is telling never, that can be entered as number 1. This is what we called as the coding of a questionnaire. මෙන්න මේ විදිහට කෝඩ් කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට question එකක් හදලා key එකක් හදාගන්න පුළුවන්. Okay. So first step is of the data entering is use a proper coding method. The other, after you are doing the coding, make sure you make a key for the coding. The key means you have to prepare a document with the question numbers and what are the meaning of each code. For an example, section, in the last one I showed you, section A, question 1, male equals 1, female equals 2. In that way, for the whole questionnaire, you have to create a key. Now, like I showed you, when you are coding, you have to think about different types of questions you used. If you used a scale 1, numeric scale 1, 0 is low, 10 is high, add higher to that coding. Because when you saw the higher numbers, you know it is a higher level. If you are doing a ranking scale, like 1 is low, 5 is higher, then you have to keep that in your coding key as well. These numbers indicate levels. And also, in the ranking scales, you have to consider negative statement. Negative statements are things like, now let's say there are some statement regarding let's take the earlier tool. Okay. Right. See this one. So these questions, how often you have been upset because of something bad happened, something that unexpected happened. In the last month, how often have you dealt successfully with irritating life hassles? Now, some of these statements can come in negative side. For an example, let's think about this. It is said, in the last month, how often you felt that things are going your way. පහුගිය මාසේ මට ඕන විදිහට වැඩ වෙනවා කියලා කොච්චර නිතරම දැනුණාද? So my answer is very often, I would put a tick here. මම දැන් respondent කෙනෙක් විදිහට මෙතන දානවා. මට හැම නිතරම දැනුණා මට ඕනද වැඩ වෙනවා කියලා. But remember, if the question was like this, how often you felt that things were not going your way? මෙතන අහනවා මේ විදිහට අහනතෝ මේක නෙගටිව් ප්‍රශ්නයක් විදිහට. දැන් මෙතන අහන්නේ පහුගිය මාසේ තමන්ට කොච්චර දැනුණාද දේවල් ඕන තමන්ට ඕන දර වෙනවා කියලා. එහෙම වෙච්ච හින්දා මම රෙස්පොන්ඩන්ට් කෙනෙක් විතර මම දානවා very often හැමතිස්සෙම එහෙම දැනුණා. If I use the term not here, okay, not here, this becomes a negative question. දැන් මෙහෙම question එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා අපි හිතුවොත් මොකක් හරි question එක. එතකොට මගේ answer එක වෙන්නේ never කියන එක. මොකද මට එහෙම දැනුනේම නැහැ. This is what we have to carefully look when we are doing the data entry. Data enter කරනකොට මෙන්න මේ වගේ negative ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද කියලා, negative side එකට ලියවුණු ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද කියලා අපි බොහෝම සැලකිලිමත් වෙන්න ඕනේ. If there are such questions, we might need to recode them into positive ones. සමහර ටූල් වල මෙහෙම ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. positive ගොඩක් ඇතුලේ, positive පැත්තට තියෙන ගොඩක් ඇතුලේ මේ වගේ negative side meaning එකට හදපු ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. මෙහෙම දෙයක් දැනුනේ නැද්ද? මෙහෙම දෙයක් උනේ නැද්ද? අන්න ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට අපිට මේව recoding කරන්න වෙනවා positive side එකට එන විදිහට. So that is also need to be done in the data entering sheets. Making the negative meaning questions into positive ones. And you have to mark them very clearly, the positive ones. Okay. එහෙම නැත්නම් data analysis කරනකොට තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ එන්නේ. Right. Now, once you do these codings, you can start entering data. Now, when it's come to entering data, there are a lot of methods. Sometimes these data can be directly entered into data analysis softwares. There are a lot of data analysis softwares like EpiInfo, SPSS. We can directly enter into these softwares. That is one method. But if we are using data collection tools, especially online data collection tools like Google Forms, you cannot use directly data entering method. In that case, we can use spreadsheets like Microsoft Excels. Now, when you are entering data, always remember the types of data. The data types means what is the category of the data? What is the category of data we have gathered? Whether it is a number, whether it is a comma means numbers with decimal places, whether it is a string means coming with letters, small phrases, sentences, whether they are dates or currencies. Now I will show you another data set. Right. There's a bit of stuck in the data sheet. Okay, got that. Right. Okay, hope you can see this screen now. So this is a data sheet used for a need assessment for starting a master's degree program. Now, this is an output. This is an output from a Google Sheet. So this assessment, this survey has done based on the using a Google Sheet. So all the results are coming like in test. But the problem is, even though this is the data we directly get from the Google form, we cannot use this for quantitative analysis. Because in the quantitative analysis, we are looking for data coming from numbers in quantities in a measurable way. Now, what we can do is we can use this sheet and replace the items with some codes. Using some codes. එතන මම අර කලින් කිව්වා කෝඩ් කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ විදිහට මේ අපිට හම්බ වෙන Google Sheet එකෙන් හරි අපි එකතු කරන sheet වල තියෙන text විදිහට තියෙන ඒවා හරි අපි code කරගන්න ඕනේ. Only after that, that coded sheet we can use for the data analysis. Okay. Right. So the codings, how to replace the text with the codes, I'm not going to explain. They are more into the data assessment, data analysis part. But the simple filtering operations we can use for data replacement. So if you are familiar with Microsoft Excel, you know we can use data filtering, and we can use the find and replace option to replace all the text with necessary codes. Okay. So in this way, we can finally create a good data sheet which is ready for data analysis. Now, once you're done with the data entering, you can start the data analysis. Always, when it's going for the data analysis, I'm advising to keep the original sheet intact and always go with the copy of data sheet. The best way to do data analysis is play with these numbers by yourself. These days, you can get access to a lot of internet resources like YouTube, and you can learn to manipulate the softwares. You can learn to work with the softwares. So the basic idea behind data analysis is always start with the basic descriptive analysis. We are in any research study, we are starting with the descriptive analysis, like frequency, the numbers, how many males, how many females, how many people coming from this occupation, how many coming with these income levels. So this frequency analysis, and frequencies can be presented with percentages as well. So the percentage වලින් පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්, numbers වලින් පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන්, and also we can use the graphs also. These basic analysis can be even done on simple softwares like Microsoft Excel. So Microsoft Excel වගේ software එකක් වුණත් පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ basic descriptive analysis එකට. But as for the further analysis, we are going to need the statistics softwares, and we need the help from someone who are familiar with the data analysis methods. Okay. Now, these are the main things that we are planning on discussing on this research course. As for the final step, I'm showing you the parts, how to go with the basic research proposal. Now, if you are planning to start with the research, you are going to need a format. Now, the thing is, the format for a research study proposal, it depends. It depends on the institutes, it depends on the guidelines, and it depends on the needs of the supervisor, and based on the research type. Now, here what I'm showing is the basic structure for a quantitative research study. Usually, a research proposal start with the cover page. This can be either printed or soft copies can be handed. So this one will be starting with the cover page with name and the dates. And then there are a table of contents. And after that, this is where we are formally starting. If we are using any figures or tables, those things also come before this introduction, like list of tables and list of figures. And in the introduction part, we are giving, this would be the first chapter, okay? Introductory chapter. Here, we are telling some general information, introduction regarding our topic. What we are doing here, what is the background of our research, those kind of things. Now, this introduction one usually associated with a brief literature review as well. Now the thing is, for the academic purpose, we do this literature review separately. අපි මේක මාස්ටර් එකකට නැත්නම් වෙන ඩිග්‍රී එකකට මොනාට හරි කරනවා නම් literature review එක වෙනමම second chapter එකක් විදිහට කරන්න introduction chapter එකේ අපි තියන්නේ නැහැ. If not, we can combine the introduction and literature review together and prepare it as a one chapter. This is in this research proposal, it is how it has been done. The combined introduction and literature review part. Then we are finishing with the justification. And after that, the next part would be describing the objectives. And also, if you got a research question, that can also can be incorporated into the next part of your research proposal. So basically, research question and the objective will be in the next part. And then comes to the main part, the methodology part. In the methodology part, we need to cover certain aspect. The first one would be the study design, which kind of approach we are using in the study. And the next one would be, what is the place of the study, the geographical area, give a brief introduction. And then what is the study population and the sample. Now the thing is, when it's come to the study population and the sample, if you are using a specific sample calculation, you have to put here in the proposal what is your sample calculation and what is your sampling technique. But in this proposal, all the population is incorporated into the study sample. Therefore, there is no sample size calculation, no selection. And then we put what is our inclusion criteria and what is our exclusion criteria. So like I said, sampling method. So here you can see sampling method. Is mentioned like purposive sampling technique, purposive total population sampling techniques. So in this way, you have to mention what is your sampling technique. And then sample size. All the sample size calculation need to be conducted here. If there are no sample size calculation, you can mention how you selected your sample size. And then if there are any study variables, variables means the aspects we are studying. So in this study, we are using independent variables and dependent variables, these terms. I'm not explaining a lot. So basically, independent variables means the one variables which are not changing over the study period. අපි ස්ටඩි කරන අතරේ වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැති දේවල් තමයි independent variable කියලා කියන්නේ. Then the dependent variables means the variables or the factors changing based on these independent variables. මේ variables කියලාට අපි සිංහලෙන් කියන විචල්යන් කියලා. ස්වාධීන විචල්යන් මත රඳා පවතින ඒවාට අපි කියනවා මේ dependent variable, එහෙම නැත්නම් පරායත්ත විචල්යන් කියලා. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ පරායත්ත විචල්යන් dependent variables මේවා රඳා පවතිනවා මෙන්න මේ සාධක මත. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ සාධක මොනවාද කියලා තමයි සඳහන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේවා තමයි අපි ස්ටඩි එකේ ටෙස්ට් කරන්නේ. And the next part in the proposal would be the study instruments. Study instrument, what are the tools we are using and how they are being developed. Those things need to be discussed here. And then how the data analysis will be done and what where we are getting the ethical clearance, that also need to be included. And in this proposal, it is not mentioned, but in a formal proposal, there should be a part dedicated for a timeline. when we are starting and when we are finishing, and what are the specific actions we are following in these different times. And also we can include a budget as well. What is the estimated budget for the study? Finally, we need to put a list of references we use for the study. So regarding the references, I briefly mentioned we have to use citation styles, which we discuss briefly during our literature review discussion. And then the annexes need to be incorporated. The tool, what is the tool we are using? We have to put that one as well. And then finally attach the information sheet and consent form as well. So this is the basic structure for a research proposal. Now, as I said, the things may be a little bit different based on the requirement. However, keep in mind the research proposal should be consist of an introduction, literature review, objectives, and then under the methodology, study design, study area, study population, study sample, sampling technique, sampling size, and then variables, data entering and analysis, and how ethical clearance and ethical issues, and finish with entering with the time frame and estimated budget. And finally put the list of references used to develop the proposal. And as the annexures, we can use the any other relevant things like questionnaires, consent form, information sheet, these kind of things. Okay, so these are the things that we need to cover during this research course. So if I remind you again, we started with development of a research topic, and then from the research topic we jumped into research questions, and from the research question we talk about objective development, and then literature review, how to write the literature review, and how to do the online searching, databases, data keyword forming, and database searching using keywords. That part we discussed, and then we started discussing regarding the research methodology. So we discussed regarding mainly about quantitative approach and qualitative approach, how we decide upon the approach based on our topic. And then we focused on sampling, sample size, sample selection, the different approaches, probability approach, non-probability approach, and what are the different approaches coming under each of these things, and how we decide upon a sampling technique. After that, we discussed regarding sampling, sample size calculation. So I introduce you with 3 basic but commonly used sample approaches for quantitative research studies. And then we started to discuss regarding research tool development. Research tool development, how to develop the questions and different types of questions we can put in the tool, and what are the different kind of validations, and also what are the reliability testing tools as well. And finally, we briefly went through the ethical considerations during a research, why we need ethics and how to obtain them. And then I showed you regarding basic concept related to data entering. So data entering can be done using Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel sheets, or directly entered into the data analysis softwares. But the main thing is we have to do simple coding process before entering data. And then I told you regarding the basic structure for a research proposal. So I think during this time period, we have covered a lot. the basic ideas related to starting your own research concepts. And I hope you got some ideas regarding the research process so you can start developing your own research. So if you got any questions regarding this course, you can ask at the moment. I'm putting one of my email addresses here in the chat box. So if you get any questions later on while doing any studies or things, you can ask, and if possible, if it is in my scope, I'm always happy to give a hand with that. So I hope you good to understand the basic concept regarding research method during this course, and I'll be sharing the some extra details on these aspects as well. I would like to thank you for joining through these 5-day sessions, and hopefully you will be able to start your things, and I wish you all the best to your future plans as well. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.